Okay, guys, hi. How's it going? Backyard Astronaut here, Jeremy Crowhurst, as you may know. I'm going to try to do this one way or another and see if it works. Right now, it's showing that the stream is red, which means it may or may not be working, or you may or may not be buffering or whatever. And I'm really sorry about that. I'll work on it. We're going to work on this and see what we can do. So here we are. It's the 29th of January, and I am doing, a not so live stream of a mission that was this morning. And I'm going to try to do it, and we'll see what happens with this live stream, with the buffering and so forth. Hopefully that won't be too bad, and we'll be able to make this work. So today is the 29th, as I said, of January, and it's SpaceX's Starlink mission number 4. What that is a Falcon 9 launch of 60 satellites. The satellites are about a little bit bigger than a pizza box, and they are an internet constellation, which means they are launching upwards of, and this is a big number, I think they said 40,000 of these things all around the Earth, and it's going to be this constellation around the Earth, so that everybody can have access to really good internet, which would really help me right now. I'm going to try a few things here, see if we can get a better link going here and see what you can see out there. And if not, then we'll just start over someday. So yeah, I guess I should go to the big screen. Sorry about that. I was over in the corner. So what we're going to do is we're going to watch the stream. It was this morning at 9:06 Eastern Time, so 8:06 Central Time where I am. And we're just going to talk about it. So let's get started with what SpaceX is doing, and we'll go from there.
It is 8:55 a.m. Eastern on January 29th, and you are looking at a live view of the Falcon 9 as it awaits its targeted 9:07 a.m. Eastern Time launch from Cape Canaveral Air Force Station in Florida. Good morning from SpaceX headquarters here in Hawthorne, California. My name is Lauren Lyons, and I'm an engineer on our Starlink team here at SpaceX, and welcome to our live webcast of our 4th Starlink mission. To date, we have launched 3 sets of 60 Starlink satellites. One set back in May of 2019, another in November, and the most recent just a few weeks ago on January 6th. This network of relatively small but advanced satellites is designed to bring high-speed, low-latency broadband internet to people all over the globe. By design, these satellites will be able to service areas of the globe where connectivity has been unreliable, too expensive, or completely unavailable. For those of you who follow SpaceX closely, you know we successfully completed an in-flight demonstration of our Crew Dragon launch escape system about a week and a half ago on January 19th. This test was the last major milestone before we fly NASA astronauts to the space station for the first time on our Crew Dragon spacecraft later this year. This is the mission known as Demo 2. The rocket you see on your screen right there also played a role in these efforts. Specifically, this booster previously launched the first Crew Dragon spacecraft, minus the astronauts of course, and launched it to the International Space Station for NASA back in March of last year.
So I'm going to pause it there for a second and kind of catch you up here on what's going on. She just kind of ran through a lot of all this, but as they were saying, this is different than some of the other stuff that we've seen in the past week or so. and the biggest of that was the in-flight abort test that SpaceX just did. The in-flight abort test was a bang, you could say. Basically, what they were doing is they took a old booster, the bottom half of the Falcon 9, and they put the Crew Dragon, which is the capsule, the Apollo-like capsule on steroids that I'll go over a little bit later, and put it on top and did a launch, and then at about 2 minutes into it, real close to the maximum aerodynamic pressure, max Q, they aborted the launch, which means they killed the engines on the booster, and then the capsule had to know what to do in case of that issue to save the astronauts, and so it lit all of its motors, which are the Super Draco motors. There's 8 of them on the capsule, and it took off like crazy. As the bottom half, or the rest of the Falcon 9 rocket below it, basically exploded. You can look back at my previous live stream of that. It was really amazing. And since then, there's been some really great video come out of it. But she was talking about that. That's not this mission. This mission is a normal mission for SpaceX, where they're taking they're adding to the already 3 launches of Starlink satellites. So we'll just listen in on what she's saying.
This was a mission known as Demo 1. Now today we're going to attempt to recover this Falcon 9 first stage for the 3rd time, this time on the drone ship Of Course I Still Love You, which is currently stationed about 350 nautical miles off the coast of Florida. We'll also be attempting to recover both payload fairing halves today during using our 2 fairing recovery vessels, Miss Tree and Miss Chief. Whew. So we likely won't see those views live, but we'll provide updates on progress on that recovery as they become available. So we're continuing to count down to liftoff, but if for some reason we have to call a hold on today's launch, we do have a backup opportunity on Thursday, January 30th at 8:45 a.m. Eastern. But at this time...
Okay, another pause here. While we have a really good picture of the top of the rocket. As you can see, the fairing, which is the bulbous top part, is on top of the rocket, and that is where all the cargo is. The smoke coming out of the side is normal. That's venting of the oxygen and fuel as they load the fuel into the rocket. The payload fairing is 2 halves. So it's like this on top of the rocket. So imagine my hands as that bigger upper part, and inside of there is 60 little bitty satellites that actually aren't that little bitty. You can put a school bus in there, so it's really big. This thing is 140 feet tall-ish, and has room for a lot of cargo in there. So they take these satellites and they stack them all in there, and they launch them to space, and then those fairings come off and fall back to Earth. Well, they're trying something new today. Well, they've been trying it for a while, and that is they're trying to catch these things. Okay, so you'll see here in a little bit. In about 8 minutes, it'll launch. In about 4 minutes into the launch, that fairing half will come off. And they'll show that, and you'll see it fall down, and then it'll come back into the atmosphere, and then it pops a parachute. And unlike any other thing that any other company has done, they have 2 ships. Not the one that the rocket would land on, which again is incredible, but these are 2 other ships that have really big nets. It looks like how would you say, like a trapeze. You know, when you see a trapeze and people are on it and you have these big nets out underneath them, then you have these nets. So you got this boat, and then you got these big arms out on the side of it, on each side, and then this fairing is floating in like this with a parachute on top, and they come up underneath it and they catch this thing, or they try to. They've tried many times, missed most of them. One time it got caught on the arm. One time it broke the arm. One time just totally missed. But these things are out at sea where it's coming down, and the really interesting part is they're getting really close to it. They're getting really close to being able to catch these things. And why would you? Well, each side of that fairing, the big half there, each side of those is worth about $5 million. So you add $5 million here, $5 million there, and you catch them, keep them out of the salt water, put them on the boat, bring them back, and you can put them back together and put them on top of another rocket. And so they're doing that, and they're trying to catch these things, and it's really something to see. So I'm hoping that they'll have some footage of that later on here, and so when that thing takes off, the fairing will come off, and then the satellites will launch out, and we'll go from there. So let's see what else is going on here.
All systems are go for an on-time liftoff.
My name is Jesse Anderson, and I'm a lead manufacturing engineer here at SpaceX. Right now, we are looking at a live view of Falcon 9 on our pad Space Launch Complex 40, or Slick 40, in Cape Canaveral, Florida. Falcon 9 stands 70 meters tall, and when it's fully fueled, it'll hold just over 1 million pounds of propellant that the vehicle will burn through in less than 3 minutes after liftoff. We prepped Falcon 9 for launch in our hangar at the base of the pad, and upon completing final checkouts, Falcon 9 rolled out to the pad with the Starlink payload and went vertical early this morning. The chief engineer held a technical poll at T-1 hour to confirm no significant issues, and launch director held a propellant load and launch go-no-go poll at T-38 minutes to ensure all teams were good to begin the fueling process. Falcon 9 has been loading propellant since T-35 minutes, and currently our rocket-grade kerosene, or RP1, is nearly fully loaded on the first stage, which is the bottom two-thirds of the vehicle that you see there on your screen. That first stage, which previously flew during SpaceX's Demo 1 mission for NASA, as well as the RadarSat Constellation mission in June of 2019, is responsible for accelerating the vehicle through the Earth's atmosphere to the edge of space with the help of 9 Merlin engines. Above that first stage is the second stage, which has a single Merlin vacuum, or MVAC engine, which ignites after the first stage separates. The second stage is what will carry the Starlink satellites to an altitude of 290 kilometers above the Earth's surface. At this time, second stage is fully fueled, and liquid oxygen loading is currently underway on both first and second stage. The stack of 60 satellites is safely enclosed inside of these.
So yeah, you can see that that's the satellites. Each one of those horizontally is laid out, and that's piled up on top of each other inside the fairing.
That there on your screen. And once we reach the vacuum of space, we will deploy the fairing as the second stage continues on its journey to its final orbit. So far, weather is looking good during our launch window for an on-time launch, but we'll be keeping an eye on this all the way down to T-0. The Air Force range is prepared to support today's mission. Waters are clear of any ships, and the range continues to ensure the safety of our launch.
So something else to think about here. They're not. I mean, they are in Florida. They are at Slick 40, which is the. It's not the Apollo site, the shuttle site. It's not Pad 39A. There that the other rockets launch from. This is Slick 40, they call it, Space Launch Complex 40. So they shorten that by saying Slick 40. It's at Cape Canaveral Air Force Station, which is just south of Kennedy Space Center, just by like 300 feet. I mean, it's just real close. It's like the neighbor to it. So when these things launch, they land at the Air Force Station there. When they launch, from Pad 39A, they'll land at Cape Canaveral Air Force Station. So that's what you're seeing there. So this is a second launch site right there at Kennedy Space Center.
That can provide this level of service is incredibly challenging, but we are making steady progress towards that goal with every Starlink launch. And one quick note, during our last launch we mentioned that we were experimenting with a darkening treatment on one of our satellites. This is part of an effort to minimize reflections from the satellites that may be distracting to some astronomers during their observations of the night sky.
So that's one of the things that people are thinking are somewhat controversial about the Starlink mission and having, thousands and thousands of satellites in low Earth orbit is when they first deploy, which you would probably be able to see them right now if you're in the right place, seeing I'm, 12 hours behind the launch. So they've been in orbit since this morning at 8 o'clock Central Time. It's now 9 o'clock p.m., so about 12 hours, 13 hours later. If you were in the right place, you could look up and you could probably see a long line of little lights going through the sky in a trail, like 60 of them. So that is the reflection of the sun off of the Starlink satellites in low Earth orbit before they get to their final orbit. What she's talking about here is a lot of people think, oh, when you get that many satellites, you're going to be not going to be able to see the stars. You're not going to be able to see, telescopes are going to have a hard time seeing out past that and all that stuff. But when you think about it, it's just so big up there. It's really not going to be visible. They're taking all these steps. They're painting the bottom of these satellites black and with different colors to make them not so reflective and everything. And it's really just kind of interesting the way that the press is looking at some of this payload, because two things are going to happen with the Starlink mission. One, you're going to be able to get great internet coverage anywhere. Now, when I say anywhere, I mean anywhere. If you are in the middle of the desert, if you are at home, if you are in your car, if you are anywhere, like the fastest internet you can get at your office right now or at home, you'll be able to get that anywhere, all over the world. Not just America, all over the world. For instance, one of the other channels I watch a lot is Gone with the Winds, and they are this off-the-grid kind of couple that is out on a ship right now in the middle of the South Pacific. They have a sailboat, and that's just this couple of people, the Winds, Jason and Nikki Wynn or whatever. They're out in the middle of the Southern Pacific on this sailboat, and they have to go into port and try to find internet. When this is done, they'll be able to have internet anywhere they want, literally in the South Pacific, in the North Pacific, in the middle of the Atlantic, in the middle of the desert, anywhere. So this is going to revolutionize things. And number two, what it's going to really going to do is it's going to make the SpaceX missions that they want to go to Mars completely possible, because this is going to basically bankroll that entire mission idea to Mars. They are predicting they're predicting that Elon Musk, the owner of SpaceX and Tesla and all these other Mars related companies that he's got, is going to quickly become like 4 times over the most rich man in the world. Like Jeff Bezos, the founder and owner of Amazon, which is currently the richest guy in the world, it's going to be like 4 times his value. It's just going to go through the roof, because people are going to want to buy this access to the internet from wherever. And so they're just going to throw money at it, and all of a sudden his value is just going to go through the roof. And so then he'll have all this money to do all these other things, including get to Mars and do all this other stuff. So we're never going to get through this thing if I keep talking. So I'm going to go back to this and let's see what she says here.
It takes a few weeks for those satellites to reach their final orbit destination, so we don't
Nope.
have the
Yep.
results
So
of that DarkSat experiment just yet.
they're experimenting with the color of with the reflectivity.
It becomes available.
We are currently a little bit over 4 minutes from liftoff, and Falcon 9 is now moving into the final stages of the countdown. At T-minus 7 minutes, engine chill began. This is where we allow a small amount of the super-chilled liquid oxygen to flow into the Merlin turbo pumps prior to the full flow of liquid oxygen into the vehicle, and that's to avoid any shocks to the system. Liquid oxygen is also what's creating the white puffs around Falcon 9. We continue to load super-chilled liquid oxygen, or LOX, into the stage until just before liftoff, and when that super-chilled LOX comes in contact with the ambient air around it, it creates those white clouds surrounding the vehicle that you can see there on your screen. And just a few moments ago, around T-minus 4.5 minutes, the transporter erector retracted away from the rocket slightly, and this provides clearance for Falcon 9 to lift off. The first and second stages are both nearly fully loaded with 1 million pounds of kerosene fuel and liquid oxygen. First stage should finish prop loading at T-minus 3 minutes, and second stage at T-minus 2 minutes. At T-minus 60 seconds, be sure to listen in to the call out that Falcon 9 is in startup. This means that the rocket's autonomous internal flight computers have taken over the launch countdown. This booster has launched from our 39A launch pad, our Vandenberg launch pad, and it is now getting ready for liftoff from our Slick 40 launch pad today.
I just can't believe that they're able to relaunch this thing that many
healthy.
times.
The Falcon 9 team is tracking no
That is
issues
just the
on
bottom
rocket,
part. Just the
but
bottom
there's
part
still
below the
a
black
and the
is the
range
booster.
green for
That's the
launch.
part that's a little
So let's listen
more
to the last
dirty,
few minutes of the countdown.
with the soot from reentry, and so the bottom part there is the booster, the Falcon 9 booster. It's about 120, 140 foot tall. The rest of it, I was wrong earlier, is actually the total height of the rocket is 230 feet tall, which is ginormous when you're standing next to it. It's 229 feet tall, or 70 meters tall. I don't know about meters versus feet, but so yeah, below the black stripe is the first stage, and the upper stage, which is all white, is where the second stage engine, the smarts for getting it into orbit, the part that continues into orbit, between the black stripe and the fairing, which I was talking about, the bulbous part on top. That's the only part that is not reused. And so it goes and pushes the satellites up into orbit, and then unfortunately they haven't figured out how to get that back home yet. But they're working on it, or at least they secretly are working on it. And that part burns up in the atmosphere when it comes back down. So 1 minute and 30 seconds. Let's listen to the countdown and enjoy a little bit of the launch. You can see behind it there, that's the building that they actually build them in. That barn-looking building back there. They lay it down and they build it in that barn, and then they roll it out here and stand it up.
Falcon 9 startup.
Startup is when it takes over and is in control of all its own parts.
Complete.
Fueling is done, and it's ready to go. It's computers are getting started up. That's the launch director saying go for launch. And 30 seconds coming up.
T-minus 30 seconds.
Hold your breath.
T-minus 15 seconds.
Cross your fingers.
10, 9,
8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Go! There it goes. Look at that thing. need to get there and see that. Ah, beautiful, beautiful.
Vehicles pitching downrange. Stage 1 propulsion is normal.
Beautiful. Straight up.
It is T plus 45 seconds, and we've just had a nominal liftoff of our Falcon 9 vehicle carrying our Starlink payload on its way to its targeted orbit. In just about 20 seconds coming up here, we will be passing through max Q.
Falcon 9 is supersonic.
I love that cloud around the top when it goes through. It goes
The
supersonic.
largest structural load that the vehicle sees throughout ascent.
Vehicle is experiencing maximum aerodynamic pressure.
It is not going down.
Just
It is
heard
going
that call out for
away.
max Q. Coming
you
up
can see.
next in about a minute will be 3 events back to back, starting off with MECO, or main engine cutoff, followed immediately by stage separation, and this is where the first stage separates from the second stage, and then followed by SES-1, which is second engine startup.
MVEC engine chill.
And we should be able to see all 3 of those events live on your screen. But right now we've got an awesome view looking aft on the vehicle with the
Don't you
Earth
love
background.
seeing Florida's coastline right there, and then the Earth and all that just disappearing.
Now if you're just now joining us, we're about 30 seconds away from MECO, main engine cutoff, stage separation, and SES-1, or second engine start 1.
As it gets higher in the atmosphere, the pressure gets lower and the flames get wider because there's less pressure pushing them into the cone that you're used to seeing. It's really kind of cool. Okay, so here comes the stage 1 will turn off, the stage 2 will turn on, light up, and then you'll see it.
There's that main engine cutoff.
Main engine cutoff,
Stage separation confirmed.
stage separation. The left.
Stage separation, first stage separating from second stage on your left screen, and on the right, second engine startup. That's that MVAC engine on our second stage.
So now the
There's
left
that
hand,
bright red glow on the engine.
the left
So
hand
now
is
coming
the
up in about
stage
20
1.
seconds is fairing deploy, and as Lauren mentioned earlier, we will be attempting to catch both payload fairing halves on our recovery vessels, Miss Tree and Miss Chief. It will be unlikely that we will see these live on the webcast, so we'll bring you updates as they become available. But you can also check into our social media for updates as well.
Fairing separation confirmed.
Oh,
And there's that call out
And
for
there it
fairing
goes.
separation.
And
There's
look,
fairing deploy. You can see that
you'll
on
see
your
them
right
falling
screen.
away
Those
here.
fairing halves are
See it
now
falling way down
You
there?
can see that on your screen, actually. The fairing halves are making their way back to Earth, and hopefully we can catch those on our recovery vessels.
And the left picture is the first stage, and it's got the grid fins out already, and it's guiding itself. It did a little bit of a boost back burn there. Well, it didn't boost back. It's just falling. Boost back would be coming back to Florida. This is falling straight back down and going to land on the ship. Of course, I Still Love You is the name of the ship. That's the same ship that they've crashed him into for so many times before they figured this out. So they named him. Of course, I Still Love You after all the abuse it took. The right-hand side is the second stage, and it's pushing the
Bermuda.
satellites further up into orbit. So we'll watch both of them here and see what they do.
Okay, so we have on both sides of your screen here, we got stage 1 on the left and stage 2 on the right. So a lot of really cool stuff coming up all at once or in rapid succession here in the next few minutes. On the left side, what we're going to see on the stage 1 side of things is at about T plus 6 minutes and 24 seconds, more or less, you're going to hear the call out and hopefully visually see the stage 1 entry burn. That's where we reignite 3 of those Merlin 1D engines, and that allows the first stage to slow down as it re-enters the upper part of the Earth's
Stage 2 is
atmosphere.
on a nominal trajectory.
Alright, as you just heard, stage 2 is on a nominal trajectory. That's really cool.
Nominal
Meanwhile,
means
stage 1 is coasting down,
normal
getting
and
ready for that entry
expected.
burn. That burn's going to last just under 20 seconds. After that entry burn, stage 1 will continue to coast down towards the drone ship, and in about T plus 8 minutes or so, you're going to hear the call out for the landing burn. That is where we reignite a single Merlin 1D engine, that's center engine E9, and that slows the vehicle down to 0 velocity, and hopefully you'll see a cool image of it standing right up on the drone ship. Meanwhile, stage 2 continues to perform nominally, wherein the MVAC is at full power. Now, right after the stage 1 landing, about 20 seconds later, you're going to hear the call out for SECO 1. That's second engine cutoff 1. That is where we cease to burn the second stage engine and takes us into our first coast phase.
Okay, so you can see how stage 1 is starting to head back down.
That stage 2 engine is burning with more than 200,000 pounds of thrust as it takes that stack of 60 Starlink satellites to its
200,000
first
pounds
orbit.
of thrust in a vacuum.
Stage 1 entry startup.
Whew.
Alright, you see that entry burn as it started?
So that is slowing it down and protecting the engines from the worst part of the re-entry plasma and punishing. It forms a little protective shell around that engine as it comes back
We
in
just heard the call out that the entry burn on stage 1 has
and
concluded.
slows it down. That's just 220,000 pounds of thrust on one engine with zero or very
Stage 2
little
continues on a nominal trajectory.
in its way. I mean, it's in a vacuum, and so it is burning like crazy with 220,000 pounds of thrust behind it.
We're a little bit
It's accelerating
under, a minute from the
fast.
landing burn
Well,
start.
as you can see down there,
Meanwhile, stage 2, as you can see, continues on a nominal
18,400
trajectory.
kilometers an hour.
Stage 1 transonic.
Okay, they must have lost vision on the stage 1. Transonic means it's coming back into less than Mach 1. Next thing it's going to do is light up
In
the
just
landing
15
engine,
seconds, stage
landing
1
burn,
should start that landing burn.
and then hopefully we'll be able to see it land on the ship. Hopefully.
Right, that landing burn is currently going. Unfortunately, we don't have
Oh,
the
there's the
video of
ship.
the vehicle, but we do have the
So
drone
watch,
ship.
watch maybe.
Stage 2 is in terminal guidance.
Landing legs. Oh, watch it, here it comes. Oh, yeah.
Awesome. That's the third landing of this booster.
Oh my gosh, it never ceases to amaze me. Gosh.
Very cool. And
I've stood next to one of those things. It is
now we
huge.
should be seeing
140
SECO
feet
1.
tall,
That is where that second stage
12
engine
feet
will cut
wide,
off.
and those legs are like 40 feet wide. And it just plops right down in the middle of the ocean. Amazing. Just like nothing. So,
That animation there, but let's
that was
do some more.
exciting.
Alright, as you just heard, second engine shut down,
Oh, escape expected.
and we got confirmation that we're in a good orbit.
Alright.
Alright, so we're now going to enter a coast phase. So we're going to take a quick
Nominal
break,
orbit
but
insertion.
we'll be leaving you with an animation that shows where we are in the coast phase, and we'll be back at about T plus 45 minutes for a second stage relight, followed by another brief coast, and then payload deploy. Hopefully we'll be able to bring you that payload deploy live on the webcast, so we'll see you back here in just over 35 minutes.
Okay, guys. So now they're gonna go to some really cool music. You can see the satellites there piled up on top of each other. The Merlin engine, vacuum engine. They're coasting for a reason. Let me see if I can turn down the volume here just a little bit, and keep it on. I want to keep it playing, and talk about this a little bit. So you see those lines there. So the first dot is from Florida is where the first stage landed out at sea. The second one is where we are right now, way out. Looks like we're heading up north on this one, and that's a picture of the. Every once in a while, you see the stack of pallet-looking things. Those are the Starlinks, Starlink satellites. There's 60 of them, yeah. So you can see the stage 2 is heading up. What is that? Maine? Yeah, I guess it's Maine, Canada, way up north. So what they're doing is they're putting them into different orbits around the Earth. Each launch of 60 goes into a different orbit, and then as they all sync up, they can become this big internet constellation around the Earth. So yeah, so this is the coast stage. Literally 35 minutes of cool music before they get to the actual deployment. Hoping to see the fairing catch, or at least video of the catch. Maybe we can do that. Before we get too far into this, I definitely wanted to make sure we don't forget some things that are going on this week. Not to be a Debbie Downer or just a rain on the parade here, but as you can see behind me here, the one of my favorite things I have back here is well, let me just grab that. This is here, let me hold it up here for you. This is something I made. Didn't buy this. These are patches from the 2 space shuttles that didn't make it home. This one on this side is the Columbia, and this one on this side is the Challenger. And the very interesting part of what this week is it's Remembrance Week. It's interesting. Yesterday was the 34th anniversary, I guess, memorial, I guess you could call it, of the Space Shuttle Challenger not making it into space. I was in 9th grade. It was in 1986, and it had a problem with one of the solid rocket boosters, the white boosters on the side of the shuttle, and on ascent into space, real close to max Q as we hear here, the booster exploded. It didn't really explode. The booster kept going. The fire came out from the side of it. It broke a hole in the side of it. That fire hit the external tank. That external tank melted the side, and all of the fuel, all the hydrogen and oxygen that was in there came out all at once, and exploded in a big fireball. And I was talking to my kids last night about what happened, and it kind of hits a note at home. I'm going to do another video on that, and on the Columbia, and on what a lot of people don't remember is Apollo 1, which was what they call a plugs out test of the Apollo capsule, and all of those happened, coincidentally or not, happened on January 26th for the Apollo 1, January 28th for the Challenger, and February 1st for the Columbia. So all of the losses in American space program happened all within a week of each other. So NASA declares this week as Remembrance Week. I believe tomorrow is the Remembrance ceremony. They usually do a really cool remembrance time where they sit down, or they stand up and honor all the families, all the astronauts that have fallen. That would be 17, 3 on Apollo 1 that were lost in the fire on the pad, 7 on the Challenger when they were on ascent into orbit with Kristen McAuliffe, the teacher, the first teacher that was going to be in space, and then 7 more on the Columbia, which was the first shuttle to ever fly, and what a lot of people said were their favorite one. A lot of the astronauts that I've heard stories about and everything said that was their favorite shuttle because it was heavier and stronger and solid and just flew different than the other ones. And that was in 2003 when it came back in when it was on the way into landing, and it actually burned up in the atmosphere over Dallas, Nacogdoches, as it came over this area, actually right over the sky where I am right now. I'm in Dallas, and as it passed over this area, it was breaking apart, and so a lot of the stuff really hit here hard. But I'm going to be doing another video about that, talking a little bit more about those. Going to showcase some of the stuff from the Remembrance ceremony tomorrow, and also just want to talk a little bit more about them, just so that they're not forgotten. So I'm going to put this back over here, so excuse my reach, and talk a little bit more about that later. So where are we? We are in orbit. Good parking orbit. They're coasting. You can see that they're out over almost over Europe by now, looks like. And that's 17 minutes and they're flying. So you can see Italy there. You can see Europe. It looks like they're almost over the United Kingdom. That second dot on the white line here is where they are. So yeah, that's Scotland, and then United Kingdom they're coming up on. So if you happen to be there and you look up this morning, well, as I said, this is my not so live cast. So all of this is 13 hours ago. So we can see what they're doing. They're going to be coasting for another 20 minutes or so, and then they're going to do one more big burn for this for the second stage burn, and then they're going to do a really interesting deployment of the satellites, which I will describe here in a minute. And maybe through the magic of internet wizardry, I might just skip ahead a little bit here because we can. So right up here, well, you can see here on my little scrolly thing here, you can see that's the parking orbit. It's running right along here. But when we get to around 45 or 50, I'm gonna click, and we'll just click here, and we'll jump ahead in time a little bit. And now you can see that's Africa that they're over. Still moving along. Let's turn the volume up a little bit here so we can hear what that's the music. So yeah, so they're moving along. That looks like the Yeah, they're going over Saudi Arabia-ish area. So we're going to scoot up there a little bit more. Going to keep going because there's something I want you to see. Here, right around 50, 51. I only know that because I cheated. I looked at it earlier in the day. Oh, there it is. Haha. Okay, so right around 51. So I'm going to go up here and I'm going to jump to about 49 minutes. And that's going to put us out over, what is that, the Indian Ocean? Looks like it. And I'm going to review something here. So what we are about to see is something that that is unheard of. Literally unheard of. I'm trying to find something that I can describe it with, and I just don't have anything. So previously, about I guess 30-ish minutes ago when I started, we had pictures of the rocket on the pad, and then you had the fairing, which was on top, which is where all the satellites were in the little bulbous part on top of the rocket. Well, as they said, launch. Those things came off. The fairings came off and floated through space back into the atmosphere. Kind of did a cup kind of floating. They kind of floated down like a leaf, and then a parachute pops out, and it's not just a parachute. It's one of the wing kind parafoil that is actually steerable. And so they steer these things, and so they're steering them down over into the ocean here to catch them, hopefully. And so I'm going to fast forward a little bit here, and I'm pretty sure, yeah, there it is. You just saw a sneak preview. Here, we're going to jump ahead a little bit more, and we're going to listen in on what appears to be them catching one or trying to catch one. So let's listen to some music here, and then we'll catch it right as it happens. Oh, okay, so look there. So I'm just going to pause it. Look at what this is. Okay, so what you're seeing here, is loony. So the bottom part is a very large ship, obvious, and then you have your 4 big arms out in front and back with this ginormous net. To get a little scale, as I said, you can put a school bus inside that fairing. So if you put a school bus on end with that fairing pieces around it, that's how big that is. So it's kind of hard to tell with the bubble lens and all this. But there's a parachute, and it's coming down, and they're about to catch that fairing inside that trapeze-y looking net thing in the middle of the ocean, rocking and rolling on the sea. Or at least they're going to try. Let's see what happens. Oh, that's the parachute. Oh, let me go back a little bit. We missed it a little bit here. They actually caught it. Let's go back here. So what you're going to see is the parachute it's hanging from it right now. So you can see that's the parachute, and then it lands in the net, and then that's the parafoil orange stripy thing falling into the ocean as it lets go of that, and they lose the parachute, and that is the fairing caught in the net on top of this boat in the middle of the ocean, in the middle of nowhere. I think we saw that it's out in the Indian Ocean somewhere. And if I'm not mistaken, this thing is unmanned. They're like remote controlling it, or it's remote controlling itself. And you can see that, oh, whoa, that's some waves. And that's the American flag there, so it's... Oh my goodness! Are they going to lose it? Oh, they're lowering the... Oh. Okay, now they're lowering the tension on the net, and they're kind of trapping it. Wow, for a minute there, it looked like it was going to rock and roll itself right out of there. Oh my gosh. That is hilarious. Oh, now that's another net coming over the top of it to capture it, it looks like. Another... I don't know how they're doing that. That is so crazy. It's like they're wrapping it up somehow. One net up over another net, trapping that fairing half inside.
We've got an exciting update. As you can see on your screen, we were able to catch one of the fairing halves so far. This one is on Miss Tree, and we're still waiting to hear if we are able to catch the one on Miss Chief, second fairing half. So, exciting news so far this morning.
There's $5 million.
On Miss Tree and that second fairing half as soon as we get more information.
So they just saved $5 million. That's not something Boeing does. They'll just let it fall in the ocean. Wow. That's crazy. That is literally amazing. I can't believe they did it. I can't believe they did it. They caught it in a big net in the middle of the Indian Ocean. Or somewhere. I don't know. It looked like it was in the Indian Ocean. Where is that? So that's that white dot. Oh no, the white dot is where stage 2 is over the Indian Ocean. The fairing is over in the Atlantic Ocean where it came off and fell and parachuted down. I didn't think that they were going to take those fairing catching boats all the way around to the other side of the world. So stage 2 is that dot over the Indian Ocean. Stage 1 landed on the ship over near Florida. The fairing landed in the net in the boat in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. And now we're waiting to see if they caught the second half of the fairing. Oh, wow. Okay. That's crazy. That's crazy. Anyway, the things this company does. So, let's talk about Starlink a little bit. Turn the volume down a little bit here so you can hear what's going on, but not too much. So Starlink is the internet constellation like I was talking about earlier. It's going to end up having thousands and thousands of these little satellites everywhere. That is the ultimate goal of this launch, is to get those satellites out into orbit, into the proper orbit. And it's interesting. SpaceX is its own customer, which doesn't happen very often. It's not very often that a rocket company makes its own payload and then launches its own payload and then manages its own payload. So the SpaceX is a company that makes rockets, rocket parts, engineers, and satellites.
We did catch one of the fairing halves on Miss Tree. Unfortunately, we were unable to catch the second fairing half on Miss Chief. It was really, really close. Looks like it did have a soft water landing, so we will be pulling that fairing half out of the water and hopefully reusing it again in the future. So coming up next in about 30 seconds from now will be SES-2 followed by SECO-2, and that's second engine start and second engine cutoff. Now this burn will last just 1 second long. It's one of the shortest burns that we do, and that's because we are so close to our targeted orbit that a 1 second burn will get us there just fine. So that's coming up shortly in about 5 seconds or so. Again, it might not look like much because it is a 1-second burn. Hopefully we'll get that live view.
Or not. Nope, there it is. Okay, it doesn't even get time to turn red.
Of SES-2 and SECO-2. Now just waiting for confirmation of good orbit.
Start up, shut down all in a few seconds. Oh, there it is. And shut down. Alright, so that puts it up into the right orbit. So the next thing that they're going to do is deploy the satellites. So
we've had confirmation of good orbit. So now that second stage is in a good orbit and making its way to its final destination.
Good orbit insertion for satellite deploy.
And there's that call out. Now that we're in a good orbit, we'll be coasting for the next 15 minutes or so. So we'll be back at T plus 1 hour and 1 minute for payload deploy.
okay, so payload deploy. That is a whole nother beast. It's funny. Talk about a company that does things their own way. SpaceX is definitely one of those companies that does things its own way. And I'll tell you why. Because now that they've built their own satellites, put them in the right orbit, got them up there and everything, just when you think they're just going to let them go, you'll see they don't even let them go in the right way, classically right way. What they do is, here, I'll just use the handy dandy Amazon remote. What they do is, if this is the rocket, here's the rocket. They've got all these satellites stacked up here on the top of the rocket, okay? So it's here. What they end up doing is firing the thrusters in a way that actually starts this thing spinning. Okay, so it spins like this. All right, so you got the entire thing with all those satellites and the second stage spinning, and then what they do is, right as they're coming over the right part, they just kind of let go of them. And they'll talk about it here in a minute. But what they do is they let go of them, and all of a sudden it's like a deck of cards. They just kind of flail out. Let me see if they just kind of whiz out here. So if it's spinning this way, you can imagine if something was on the end of it, it would just kind of fall away from it. And that's what they do with this, with the satellites. They don't deploy 60, boom, 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 put them in the right place every time. They just start this thing spinning. Just start this thing spinning in orbit, and then the satellites just kind of fly off the top of it. It's the weirdest thing. And so you'll be able to see that here in just a few minutes, and you know, seeing we talked about this, and payload got caught, and the rocket landed. I mean, the fairing was caught. One of them was, and all that. Maybe we'll just jump through some of this, and we'll see what it's going to do here. Oh, there's Australia. So that's where we're going to get a bearing here where we are. Australia going away there. And so we'll just jump ahead a few minutes here. I said right at, so there's Australia, and I guess that's Antarctica below it, and New Zealand off to the right of it. And the little dot on the blue line is our cargo, is the Starlink satellites. So a little bit about them. Each Starlink satellite, and I'm going to read this, I don't have it memorized. Each Starlink satellite weighs approximately 260 kilograms and features a compact flat panel design that minimizes volume, allowing for a dense launch stack to take full advantage of Falcon 9's launch capabilities. They're powered by kryptonite, which is funny, with 4 powerful phased array antennas on each satellite. An enormous amount of throughput can be placed and redirected for in a short time. So that's the bandwidth that they're talking about, not thruster power or something. They're talking about actually data flying through them when they're deployed. The system is on the leading edge of on-orbit debris mitigation, meeting and exceeding all regulatory and industry standards. They are in really low Earth orbit, and they're actually designed to fall back in and completely burn up when they die. So when the satellite dies, or when something is commands it to, it will throw itself back down in the atmosphere, and 99.9% of it will just burn up, and we'll never see it again. So it just goes into the burning trash can of the atmosphere. Let's see, anything else about those? Starlink deployment is at 1:01. We are at 59 seconds here, so we're coming up on it. If you're wondering, Starlink is theoretically going to go online late in 2020 for the United States and Canada and the rest of the world by 2021. So late 2020, so later this year, you'll be able to go out and connect to it via a special satellite receiver. Let's see if they show us the deployment here, or when they show us the deployment. So those puffs are actually making it spin.
Welcome back to the webcast for Starlink. If you've watched our previous Starlink webcasts, you're aware that our satellites are flatly packed with no dispenser, and that the deployment sequence looks a little bit different from what you'll see on a typical launch. The satellites will slowly disperse upon deploy, and they may even bump into one another, which is to be expected. The satellites were designed with this in mind, and we are less than 1 minute away from deployment of the Starlink satellites.
Any minute. They're just going to start sliding out real slow. It's not anything amazing. It's just really different.
Okay, so after the satellites deploy, they are going to, over time, separate from one another and use their onboard krypton ion thrusters in order to space themselves out into their orbital planes and raise their altitude to their operational orbit of 550 kilometers. Our insertion orbit, if you remember today, is about 290 kilometers above the Earth.
Oh, look at the sun coming around the Earth there. That's really cool.
Look at that beautiful view.
Sunrise.
Okay, well, the one of the animation's cool too, but hopefully we'll get back to those live views from space.
Starlink tension rod separation confirmed.
Okay, we just heard the call out that separation has been confirmed. Let's see if we can get another view. That would be really cool.
Come on.
Here it should be coming
There
up.
it is.
There we go. Ah, that's gorgeous.
Sunrise
That's
and
60 Starlink satellites successfully separating from stage 2.
slowly
That
separating,
beautiful planet there is
sliding
the planet
out
that
from
the
each
satellites
other.
are going to provide internet service to, which is super, super exciting. And with that brings our webcast to a close.
So they're just
We
kind
had
of
a
spinning
successful
away
mission.
from each
We had
other.
a great stage 1 ascent, completing the hat trick, launching from 3 separate launch sites. We had the 3rd recovery of this booster. Stage 2 delivered Starlink to its operation, or to its targeted orbit, and as you just saw, we successfully separated those 60 Starlink satellites. So, oh, and also we caught a fairing. That's a big deal.
Oh, yeah.
And super awesome, and we were able to see it in the daytime, which is even more cool. So a big thank you to the 45th Space Wing for range safety and to the FAA for licensing today's successful launch.
We'd also like to thank all of you, our viewers, for tuning in this morning. Follow our website and social media platforms for updates on our next missions and milestones. And until next time, have a great morning.
Okay, so we're just gonna cancel there, and so yeah, so that is how they do it. So yeah, that's how they get 60 satellites into orbit all at once. So yeah, so if you have any questions, put them down in the comments. I would love to take some of your comments. I'm eventually going to try to get a comment section going over here, over here, over here in that little area where you guys can be asking me some questions during the launch and during the live stream. But I hope you've enjoyed my not so live stream. If you enjoyed this and you would like to see more of this, I would love to do more of them. In fact, I'm going to do more of them. If you want to join me or not, I'd love for you to join me. If you have enjoyed this, look around somewhere on my page and click the subscribe button. I'd love to be able to bring more stuff to you. As I said, my next thing is going to be a Remembrance Week, a NASA Remembrance Week, remembering the Apollo 1, the Challenger, and the Columbia accidents. Tomorrow is Remembrance Day. They're going to be doing a big ceremony out at Arlington National Cemetery in Washington, honoring the families, and at each of the NASA sites, they're going to have kind of a Memorial Day, memorial ceremony for all the 17 astronauts that had been lost in pursuit of being able to do this and make this kind of stuff look easy. So be watching for that. If you want to reach me, you can reach me at the.backyard.astro at gmail.com. I don't even know what my own email address is, and we'll go from there. But I hope you enjoyed this, and let's see if we can. Yeah, there we go. So here's how to find me. I do have a Patreon page. I'll just run through this real quick. I do have a Patreon page. If you go to patreon.com/thebackyardastronaut, what that is a way that you can kind of sign up and help support me. You go to Patreon if you're familiar with it, and you sign up for different levels of support per month or per video. I think I have it on there per video, and then you can be like an ongoing supporter of me and my channel, because look at that guy down in 1977. Isn't he cute? Well, at least he was tan and he had hair. But anyway, that was me back in 1977. I found that picture somewhere and I just had to post it. You can also find me on Facebook at The Backyard Astronaut, which is probably where you saw this link. Email is the.backyard.astro@gmail.com. Email me if you have any questions. I will be happy to reply. Love to hear from you. I'm also on Twitter at the BKYD Astro, Backyard Astro. There. Also on Instagram at the.backyard.astronaut on Instagram. So all sorts of ways to follow me and get a hold of me. My daughter Grace is helping me with a lot of my social stuff. So she's helping run some of these accounts for me. And so if you hear from her before you hear from me, hopefully that won't happen. But if you hear from somebody, it could be both of us. But just thank you for watching. Hope everything went well and you enjoyed it. And I am going to be heading out here, and we will talk to you next time and be watching for the next video. So yeah, thank you for watching, and if you enjoyed this and I earned your subscription, please click on that, and have a good evening. This is Jeremy Crowhurst, the Backyard Astronaut.